Are you ready to get your blood sugars ready for the summer heat? I can tell you, when I was doing that baseball training, I had bought a case of Gatorade. So now you're going from warmer to cooler. What is gonna happen? This one's fun. Welcome to the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we take all of the mysteries of blood sugar control, focusing on nutrition, exercise, and any of the other 40 plus factors that may impact your blood sugar. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Zeal. I'm a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, strength and conditioning coach, and I've lived myself with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years. And I am here to share everything that I have learned in both my personal and professional experience so you can live that incredible diabetes life. So get ready and let's dive right into today's episode. Are you ready to get your blood sugars ready for the summer heat? I hope so. Especially because I live in a place where there are 2 seasons each year. There are hot and hotter. That's it. That's literally all we've got down here in good old Florida. But I want to make sure that you're ready for the heat, because that can take such a massive toll on your blood sugars without you even realizing it, if we're being totally honest here. So once upon a time, way back in the day, I grew up in the Midwest, for lack of a better term, and it would get to 70 degrees, 75 degrees, maybe 80. Every now and then would be a heat wave when we get 90 and everyone would freak out. And growing up there, playing sports, training, all of that, it was fine. Like, I knew in the summer my insulin sensitivity was going to go up. And then I decided one summer I was going to train for baseball down in Florida, about, 60 miles from where I'm sitting right now. And one of my friends that I had known had trained in Florida, having come from out west. And they said that there was Fit and there was Florida Fit. She's actually a fellow type 1 as well. She ended up playing soccer at Stanford, which is super dope. But she told me there was Fit and there was Florida Fit. And I kind of just shrugged, whatever, it's not a big deal. Florida's hot, Florida's humid, whatever. Boy, was I mistaken. Florida in July, something I don't really wish upon anybody. And we kind of just get through it here. But we're talking 94, 95, humid, dripping sweat, feeling like you're breathing in soup because it's so hot, and the temperature feels like it's 110 degrees outside. Not my idea of a pleasant time. What I can say is I trained that summer for 3 weeks, and of course, yes, you do adapt to it. It's great. Blood sugars took me at that point a good 2.5 of those 3 weeks to figure out how to keep them corralled. And granted, this was back in the day before technology was as prevalent. I didn't have a CGM. I was finger sticking. My pump was on manual mode. It was up to me to figure it out. I was still just barely graduating high school. It was a whole different time, right? But the reason I bring this up, the reason I'm talking about this heat and how crazy it can be, is just impact that weather can have on your blood sugar, temperature changes. Either direction, by the way, whether I'll go into both warm to hot, that's good. I can go into cold to hot and hot to cold. And just to give you an idea of what those effects could potentially be, because there's something that it's one of those 40 plus things that impact your blood sugar, but it's rarely discussed. You go from one climate to another and you might notice a little bit of a change, or you might notice a lot more highs or a lot more lows, but you don't have a real explanation as to why. Well, this is your explanation. So when you go from warm to hot, as I'll describe before, you go from Midwest summer to Florida summer. Maybe you go from, even if we make it a little more dramatic, right? You go from the 50s all the way up to the 80s or something like that. You go somewhere tropical, super humid. What's going to happen to your blood sugar? Well, you are likely going to get more insulin sensitive because, for whatever reason, heat loves to make your body insulin sensitive, especially when you throw exercise into the picture. And now think about it, right? So heat in the world of chemistry, which I have a chem degree once upon a time. That's fun. Fun fact of the day that you didn't know. But heat makes reactions happen faster. Heat makes things move faster. And so as a result, your insulin moving through the body faster. Every impact from your body, every part of the cascade of, hey, I took insulin to, the insulin did its job, is all just sped up. I couldn't tell you if it's 2 times faster, 3 times faster, because it's pretty much irrelevant. But just know that everything starts to move a little bit faster, especially when it first happens. Step off the plane, it's 93 degrees and humid. You're used to 66 degrees and not humid. Your body is thinking, holy cow, what just happened? And you are likely going to see blood sugars drop a lot faster than you're used to, for better or for worse. So my first thing for you would be, you change weather, you change from not as hot to very hot. I would definitely be considering making adjust both basal and bolus in that case. So, I mean, that could be as simple as, hey, I'm just going to reduce everything by a certain amount. It could be, hey, I'm going to just dose less at meals. Work with your care team and figure out exactly what you're going to do. But just know that you are likely going to have more lows. So you're going to want to make an adjustment potentially preemptively, unless you really feel like waiting for that first low to hit. And then additionally, make sure you've got a ton of low snacks. I can tell you, when I was doing that baseball training, I had bought a case of Gatorade. I'm talking one of those Sam's Club or Costco cases that's got 28 bottles of the 12-ounce Gatorades, like 22 grams of carbs. I went through an entire case in the first week. Now, again, granted, I'm training at this point. It was 5-6 hours a day. It was great. Some people could call it, baseball jail, and other people could call it baseball paradise. Regardless, it was enjoyable, right? But I went through that many Gatorades because I was running that low. Another good example of this would be once upon a time, and I'm just going to pull from my own life because it's easier here, but once upon a time, volleyball. I used to play volleyball. We had dude volleyball up in northern Midwest. We had guys volleyball, and the tryouts were super intense. You're there at 9 a.m. You do conditioning from 9:15 to about 11. You do a few drills. At noon, you take a break. I'm using break with air quotes because the break was 2 hours until 2 p.m. But the unwritten rule was you eat lunch, but you also are supposed to play pickup games. And then from 2 to 4:30, you're doing more drills and all of that. And this was the tryout / conditioning / get you ready for the season type of thing. And in this case, you're in a gym. Our gym was really hot compared to outside. So we're talking another 10, 15, 20 degrees hotter, and you're in perpetual motion. So what's happening? You're active and you're also in a warmer environment. So what's going to happen? The insulin's going to work faster. And remember this one like it's yesterday. I remember eating lunch. It was 90 grams of carbs. I had an 128 carb Gatorade. It was just one of these giant things. I had enough of them to equal this giant container. I just filled this container with Gatorade, and my pump was off the entire time. And I came home and my blood sugar was 90, because that is what heat plus activity can do. So if that doesn't illustrate it, I don't know what will. But know that you are going to have to pay attention on that front for preventing lows, as well as making sure that you're making adjustments with your team before you even get into that environment. Now, what I'll also say is, on the flip side, in the event your number does end up going high, you have to make sure you're hydrated like crazy because, of course, it's hotter. You're sweating. Even by merely existing, you're probably sweating more. And as a result, once your number's high, if you're already sweating more and losing even more water, well, now your blood sugar is going to have that stubborn high that's going to take 18 years seemingly to come down. And then, God forbid, you keep stacking and raging and, oh my God, this is the worst. And then you drop, and we all know what happens there. But you're going to really have to pay attention on the hydration. It's going to be massive. And I'm a huge hydration person on the board anyway, but extra important when you go to that hotter temperature than you're used to. And so this can even go for, hey, I'm going to go lay by the pool, and I live in a relatively cold climate, but it's still warmer than normal for us. Because it's all relative, right? Living in Florida, I think 73 is slightly chilly. You might think 73 sounds like a dream if you live in Alaska. So all relative. So it's warmer for you. If you live in a more temperate climate and you go somewhere that's more like a desert, maybe you go from Seattle down to, I don't know, Joshua Tree, California, and it's super warm, that's going to be a massive difference too. And it's a different kind of heat. But again, just being ready for that adjustment is huge. Now, let's say you flip it. Let's say it's summer for us in the US, but let's say you go to the Southern Hemisphere and it's winter down there, right? You go to Australia. I don't know. You pick somewhere interesting, you go. So now you're going from warmer to cooler. What is going to happen? So this one's fun because you would think, okay, well, in warmer temperatures, you're going to be more insulin sensitive. So in cooler temperatures, it's probably the opposite. You're probably going to be more resistant. And the answer is kind of. Yes, on a fundamental level, you are sedentary, you are sitting around, you are more likely to be a little more insulin resistant, just because that's the nature of the beast, right? Everything slows down a little bit. But if you're active, that is where you have the same propensity to potentially go low. And you're thinking, well, wait a second, what do you mean here? Well, think about it, right? Your body is now having to keep itself warmer. It's utilizing more energy to do that. It's utilizing more effort to keep your internal temperature warm. So do whatever activity you're doing. So you may have an increased risk of potentially dropping. And that seems really backwards, but it's so true. So true. Think about if you go to a mountain range, let's just say Colorado or North Carolina. There, I picked both coasts, so everybody's happy. but you pick a mountain range and you climb up the mountain. As you go up, it gets colder and colder, and maybe it's 30 degrees and it was, I don't know, 65 before you started climbing up the mountain. You got up really high, right? Whatever it is. The thing is, as you're actively climbing up this mountain, it got really cold. Your body is trying to keep itself warm. You are likely to see more effort from your body, which could potentially lead to lower blood sugars. Again, neither of these are absolute situations. Going from colder to hotter, or hotter to colder, neither of them are absolute. There's going to be exceptions to every rule. This is diabetes. This is where you could do the same thing 7 days in a row, and 6 days you'll get one answer, and then one day you'll get the complete opposite just because diabetes says, yeah, fun times, let's mess with them completely, right? So that's just part of the game here. But what I can say is, when it comes to the temperature changes, you're gonna to be aware. And again, it's nothing massive. It's just recognizing it prior to going in. It's kind of like what I said in a previous episode, where it's about the preparation, right? Okay, I'm going to be changing temperatures. Do I have to consider anything here? Is there anything different that I can do to get ready for this, as opposed to, well, snap, I'm really low, I don't know why, this is frustrating, and then just getting aggravated at the situation. So the other thing I want to mention too is, remember I mentioned before that I trained for baseball in that situation. It was about 3 weeks that I was at that facility. It was great. I loved it. It was one of the best times in my life. And what's interesting is, when it comes to adaptation to temperature, it seems to take about 2 to 3 weeks for your body to start adjusting to it, if it's not your norm. So it's kind of like, I'm sure time zones function somewhat similarly, where you go from California to Florida, or Florida to California, and your time zones are all messed up. You're 3 hours back, or you fly overseas and 7 hours in front, or whatever the situation is, and your sleep schedule feels messed up. But a little, you're thinking, yeah, I'm finally adjusted to this. I can get down with this. With temperature, it takes a little bit longer. So you're in a situation where, okay, I've been at this place for 2 weeks. I've been at this place for 2.5 weeks. Your body's going to start to adjust and make it its homeostasis. You go to the mountains and you're like, oh, I'm at elevation. It's harder to breathe here. Well, you stay there for a little bit and you start to adjust, so much so you do go back to home, where if you live at sea level, you're suddenly like, wow, I can run forever. This is amazing, because your body is adjusted to that altitude. It's the same thing with temperature. It just might take a little bit longer to do that. And once it does adjust, you could pretty much consider going back to your original settings, because your body is now adapted to this heat or this cold. But the other thing is to remember, a lot of times if you're going on a trip, especially if it's a vacation, you may not be gone for 2 or 3 weeks. You may only be there for 6 days or 4 days or 8 days, which may not be enough time for you to completely go through that adaptation to whatever you're now experiencing. So keep that part in mind as well. So if you've never heard of this or never thought about this, and you're thinking, well, that's super weird, you adapt at some point, right? It may just be because you haven't been there for long enough before. And once you're there, your body changes. Think of, this is a great one. I remember I came down to Florida for college. I'd come from the good old Great North. And with that, it was my first Thanksgiving winter time down here. And I was making fun of everyone. Everyone's out here. It's 57 degrees. People are wearing parkas. People are bringing out heaters. They've got blankets. And I'm like, what is wrong with these people? I'm wearing shorts. I'm wearing a t-shirt. Like, what is wrong with you guys? It's literally 58 degrees to wear shorts until it was 25 outside. Not advocating for that, but just telling you the truth. Like, what is wrong with the people here? And then fast forward 2 years later, it's 55 and I am in a sweatshirt and another layer and a t-shirt. I've got sweatpants on and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's so cold, help. So it does happen. Adaptation does happen. You tell me now it's 55 degrees, my butt is not leaving. And then you go back to the Great North in the winter and it's 12 and I'm thinking that I am going to turn into a popsicle, but that's neither here nor there. So that is the big here, is just recognizing this summer, as the seasons change, when the fall comes, recognize that with the temperature changes will come blood sugar changes. And if you're not aware of it, maybe even consider plugging a reminder in on your calendar. Maybe it's, okay, well, the summer's here and I've already adjusted, yada, yada. Maybe consider in October, plugging something in. Hey, if I'm noticing something's funky with my blood sugars, maybe plug in on October 1st, peep blood sugars, or you check settings or temperature change, watch out for the numbers or whatever, just so you stay aware and stay on top of it, because that will come and go and very quickly. And you may not be thinking about it because you're getting pulled in 19,000 different directions, because you're living your life. You're doing what you want to do. You've got your family life, your social life, your professional life, and then there's diabetes. right? So this probably isn't number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 73 on your list. It's probably number 416. And maybe by pushing that up to a place of more prominence where you're more likely to see it, that may help you in the grand scheme. So I'm always a believer in that 5 second, where if I hear something or I think of something, I have 5 seconds where I have to write it down somewhere where I'm going to see it. And if I don't, I'm probably going to forget about it. And then I'm going to be thinking, what was that thing? What was that thing? And then it'll hit me in 3 weeks. And at that point, it might be too late. So that would be my recommendation for you here. But stash this one away. Let me know. Is this something helpful? What are you going to change for the summer now that temperatures are going to change things with your blood sugars? Talk with your care team. If you need a care team and you're thinking, hey, I need a diabetes educator who gets it, cares about my health, cares about my blood sugars, and really wants to see me elevate and have a great A1C. We have an amazing team of dietitians and diabetes educators here. Definitely shoot me a message, drop a comment, let me know if you want that support, and we can definitely help you over here. Instagram's Man of Zeal, MANOFTZEEL. But let me know, tag me, let me know what you are looking for, what support you need, how we can possibly help, and what topics you want me to cover on the next episode. I will see you in there, and got some good stuff coming, so stay tuned.